Hello and welcome to One Life Left, live on Resonance 104.4 FM. Welcome to this, a very special show, which you'll be able to hear is without Ste and Simon Byron. They've gone on holiday. That's totally fine, because I have been joined by a very, very special co-host with me today. I've been joined by Philippa Warr.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, have you had a good week?
Yeah, I mean, not bad.
Anything major happened in your life today?
Got a new job.
Brilliant. What's your new job, Pip?
I've joined Rock Paper Shotgun.
That is excellent news. That's super exciting. Yeah.
And obviously One Life Left. I've been banging on about that far more.
Well, yeah, I mean, so you are Rock Paper Shotguns for, you know, for your full-time job, but for tonight.
For tonight, I am One Life Left.
Yeah, you are ours. And not only am I joined by Pip in the studio, but I have a plethora of wonderful, wonderful guests. Today we are joined by Leigh Alexander.
Hi.
We're joined by Mitu. I'm going to pronounce your surname incorrectly, so do you want to give it a...
Yeah, it's Mitu Khandaker-Kokoris, because I like to collect surnames, apparently.
Why wouldn't you? We are joined by Kerry Turner.
Hi.
And by Monica Ion.
Yep, close enough.
How do you actually pronounce it?
Ion is okay.
Okay, we'll go with that. So, yeah, we have an excellent studio full of guests today, and we are going to be doing a slightly different show from what you might be used to from One Life Left. Today we're going to be chatting to guests in the studio, and we are also going to be hearing from other, let's be honest, we're all women here, we're going to be listening to other women from around the world who make games and who work in games, about the interesting things that they do and how they work and how they got into games, and what they're going to be doing in the future. So we've got 4 profiles coming up. We've got some excellent music, the usual kind of stuff that you're used to hearing on One Life Left. And I don't see any reason why we should not get started with our first very special interview.
I'm excited.
With... Mitu!
Oh my gosh, that's not the order we're sitting in. Oh my god.
No, I know. Okay. I have not made anybody aware of orders yet. Mitu, hi.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I haven't seen you for a long time. I think since GDC back in
Probably.
March.
I'm kind of a recluse. I like to just sit in my room and code, mostly.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Yeah. So, you work at The Tiniest Shark.
Yes, The Tiniest Shark is my micro studio. In other words, it's just me and a bunch of freelancers when I can hire them.
Essentially, Mitu is the tiniest shark.
I am, yeah. Well, it's kind of this weird thing where the Tiniest Shark is meant to be my weird conceptual mascot in because indie dev is this weird, lonely endeavour, and so everyone needs an imaginary shark friend. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Where did the name come from?
Oh gosh, yeah. It's kind of like a reference to like the fact that there is always like a bigger fish sort of thing, and it's like about being small yet shark-like, I suppose. Hungry for success and indie games.
But climb up the food chain.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's. I mean, really, sharks have always been this like really scary. They're the monsters of the sea, essentially, right? And I've always been really scared and fascinated by them. And so it's this weird like metaphor for indie development, where I was like, okay, I'm going to go strike out on my own, and it's like making something really scary, really cute and accessible. If you see what I mean.
Yeah. And it's you. It's just you in the studio. But you've managed to make a game. Quite a big game.
So last year I released my first commercial game, Red Shirt. So that was me doing sort of design and code, and I worked with some really talented artists and musicians, and I was really pleased with how it was received. And I'm pleased to say it was an Indiecade finalist this year, so yay!
Excellent work. So can you tell us some more about the game for listeners who maybe haven't played it, maybe haven't even heard of it?
Yeah, so Red Shirt is basically this sort of tongue-in-cheek social networking simulation game. It's basically about being this nobody on this future space station, possibly referencing some well-known sci-fi shows. And it's basically about just sort of climbing your way up the career ladder and the social ladder, and basically trying to sort of manipulate your way up the ladder in a way. It's a very sort of, I guess, sort of darkly tongue-in-cheek game.
I think I played it, and I played it quite early on, and I decided to sort of try and work my way up. That lasted about 5 minutes, and then I decided to seduce my way off that doomed.
I think that is you can sort of play it in this very earnest kind of way, but ultimately it's a game about it's sort of like this commentary on sort of living on this sort of utopian sort of post-capitalist society, but actually how we'll always maybe be sort of stuck in capitalism, even if it's about social capital. But it's also got puns.
Do you write a lot of puns in your work? Do you find like humour is a good vehicle for the kind of work that
for darkly dystopian work? Yes.
Yeah. Is that like so? This is your current project. You have future projects that you're working on?
I do, yeah. So Red Shirt is going to get an iPad release as well in the near future. And I'm just sort of ramping up work on my next project right now, which will be a very different kind of game. But I can't talk about it too much. I've been having very scary businessy meetings about that, though.
Yeah.
Is it close to what we had in Red Shirt, or is it a complete departure?
It's a completely different game. I mean, I think for my next game, I want to make something less weird and niche, and something that's more like I can give to my mum, or like so something that's for everybody, basically.
Did your mum end up dying on the ship then? Is that what this is?
It was a little bit impenetrable for her, yes.
And so, are there other things that you are looking to explore around games, or do you focus mostly on one project at a time? You know, being a studio just of yourself, or do you give yourself the room to work on a variety of things at the same time?
I'm really bad. As much as I like to think I'm good at multitasking, I'm really not. I end up getting really hyper focused on things, I find, and so I. Even though I'm like, okay, I'm going to have this project, and then I'm also, because the ideal thing I think would have been, and this is the sort of advice I've heard for a lot of indies, is sort of while you're finishing up a project, have the next thing lined up and like know what that is. And I fully intended to do that, but while you're sort of caught up in sort of crunching to get to the finish, you just sort of lose sight of that, and then you finish the game, then you're like, oh no, what now, sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, but I as well, I sort of gave myself some breathing room after Red Shirt, because it was a very intense time trying to get that released. And I mean, I was very lucky that I actually worked with Positech Games, who published Red Shirt for me, so they at least took some of the sort of brunt of the sort of marketing load and things like that. So it's very much like wearing like indie business training wheels, as it were. So I was lucky in that respect. But yeah, I think now I've had some breathing room. I'm sort of just getting back on track.
Do you find you're able to like balance your life when you're working by yourself on something super intensely?
No. So I was also meant to be finishing my PhD while I was working on Red Shirt, which totally got sidelined, and so I've also been trying to do that for the last, because I don't give myself enough things to do, basically.
What's your PhD in?
So my PhD is also looking at sort of video game stuff. I'm sort of looking at how different controllers sort of affect our sort of critical distance from a game as we're playing it, basically. I'm doing that at the University of Portsmouth. But I've been doing that forever, though. I mean, I keep looking for excuses to distract myself with. And I've just come up with another one.
And you also do a lot of speaking engagements around?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love to advocate for games, and I think public engagement with games is a really important thing. I'll be doing an event, I think, in 2 weeks at the Royal Academy of Engineering, which I think Kerry's going to be showing her game there as well. She's nodding, so I think she said yes to that. So, yeah, I mean, I think, just getting sort of audiences who don't typically engage with games into games is super important. And, games are just as important culturally as any other medium we have. And I think sort of the more increasingly people realise that, the better we will do as an industry as well.
Do you feel like there's been more events going on sort of outside of the games industry? Because obviously you don't want to be too introspective, and there are some great conferences and festivals and talks and things that go on where the games industry is talking to itself. But have you found that there's sort of been an increase in opportunities to speak to just sort of at different cultural events?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely been increasing gradually, and I'm really pleased to see that. I mean, there's always Game City, of course, which is always super fantastic.
Yes.
And what is it, in year 5 this year? Or is it year 6?
Yeah, I think, it's 5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah, and, I just think sort of seeing things like that, seeing games recognised for the important cultural medium that they are, is super fantastic.
Yeah.
Are you at games that BAFTA's doing as well, like the game developers and the talks and the resources they put on? So. Yeah,
definitely. And I've been really lucky to work with BAFTA. They so I and 4 other game developers were named as Breakthrough Brits, essentially, and that's out of 17 people from like film and TV and all these other industries that BAFTA have always represented, and to have that many people representing games is super fantastic, and I think BAFTA is just doing such fantastic work.
What does it mean to be a BAFTA Breakthrough Brit? Like,
I have no idea.
What do you have to do? I want to break through into something. Maybe it's not BAFTA.
I'm not sure what exactly I've broken through into, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's been this sort of experimental thing for BAFTA as well, where they're just, it's sort of just about just putting creative people just on sort of like a weird pedestal, I suppose.
Does it feel almost like a seal of approval, like, well, BAFTA kind of thinks I'm a thing, so guys, you better pay attention.
I suppose I haven't been using that enough. I just need to use that in advertising Red Shirt, really.
Yeah.
Like BAFTA approved. BAFTA win, and it's not BAFTA winning, but you know what I mean.
Definitely BAFTA approved.
I could probably push that a bit too far.
They should have a badge. It should be BAFTA badge winning, badge holding, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe something along the lines of a Blue Peter badge.
Yeah.
Because, who wouldn't want one
I'll
of those?
go home and make my own right away.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, BAFTA approved Mitu. We'll be looking forward to hearing from you throughout the show, and let's have our first profile.
Hi, my name is Arielle Grimes. I'm an underground game maker of sorts, stationed in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I do freelance game design consultation, as well as sound design freelance. I'm a bit of a jam developer. I really enjoy game jams. I love the energy and pressure of a 48-hour deadline. I do tend to work solo, doing like all the scripting, art, design, writing, animation, music, etc., on my work. When I do work with others, it tends to be for music and sound design when I can't really fit it into my schedule. And I've only really started releasing games in April. I've released 6 small to micro games, maybe you could call them. My games tend to focus a lot on queer issues and self-care, very important for me, and I see them as like a form of therapy. A lot of my work is praised for like its emotional reaction that it gets within the player, and I get a lot of feedback about that, and it's really nice. I recently released Broken Folks, which was developed for the Ruin Jam game jam. And that's like an interactive story of sorts about queer folks and their struggles and their lives. And that was featured on Polygon, which was pretty great. And I'm currently working on about a 4-player competitive game. And I'm also porting a game jam game of mine into 3D with a new engine, with Unreal Engine 4. And that's what I'm currently up to.
are listening in the background to You Won't Remember Me by Infodrive, and all of this music that we're playing today is taken from chipmusic.org, as all of our music usually is. Let's have a little chat over this music then. I'm going to say hello to you over there, Leigh.
Hi, Anne.
How are you?
Hi, Pip.
Hello.
Good, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm all right, thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Good.
It's been like a couple years since the last time I was here, I think.
It sure has, yeah, but you've been on the show quite a bit.
Yeah, a few times.
I'm going to call you a veteran of One Life Left, and
I've survived.
Happily saw your little One Life Left badge.
Oh, yeah, it's on my coat.
You wear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Friend of the show.
Always. Once on the show, always a friend of the show.
And friend of karaoke. Definitely friend of karaoke.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, you could call it that.
So you've been doing some exciting things recently in the world of books. You recently published a book called Clipping Through.
Yes, I did. It is my second ebook. This one is self-published, and it focuses on the experience of life and work through the game industry, through the lens of my personal experiences. In a lot of ways, it's stories that I've kind of always wanted to tell, but didn't really know how. So it's about relationships with developers. It's about what it's like to be at GDC. It's about what it's like to be at the IGF and things like that. And times that I was scared, and times that I didn't know what I was doing, or times that I felt opinionated and confident, rarely. It hopefully takes people inside a little bit what it's like to travel and cover video games and work up against the industry in the way that I do.
I found it such a great read.
Thank you.
Because well, for a few reasons. One, I was at that GDC and I spent some time with you, and your writing is it just put me back in that place completely, which was great. But I think that it is just incredibly honest about what it's like to be at an event like that, and just sort of to be putting yourself out there as a writer, and sort of like your own emotional connection with the things that you're writing about, and your own personal connections with the things that you're writing about and the things that you're experiencing out there. Mm-hmm. And it's really refreshing, because I think that, we read a lot of people's articles, and yes, they are sometimes personal as well, but it's not so much about the process around it and the stress that it can sometimes put you under.
Yeah.
Being a games journalist is not always super easy.
No, it's a bit challenging. It's a very crowded and competitive field. There's a lot of anxiety about how we do our work and what the purpose of our work is, and we don't all share the same opinions on those. We work close to the industry, but we're not in the industry. We're not games developers, so we're in the position of having really strong feelings and opinions about games and about creators, but without necessarily having the respect of engaging in that creative process ourselves. So we're all kind of circling this conversation about video games and trying to contribute to it, and it can be an uncertain space, and especially being, for me, as like a visible woman in the industry, it's always been an anxious experience to be in the crowds of a big game developer conference and not know where I stand with people and things like that. So yeah, in a way, it's a lot of my unique experiences, but I also thought it might be relatable for a lot of people, no matter where they were at in the industry and what their role in it is.
I've got a little clip of the book, because we had a lovely, lovely time a few weeks ago recording
thank you
a
so
chapter
much for doing that.
From the book, and that's available for people to listen to for free. So yeah, let's have a little listen to that, and I think it sort of relates to what you were just speaking about then.
Snake Eater is a game about the Cold War. A conflict of threat, anxiety, attrition. A conflict about lying in wait, watching your enemy secretly, holding your breath. At its best, the game plays like that too, if you are good, and playing Snake Eater well means, above all, no kills. There is no other war game like that, where mastery is about how few people you can kill, not how many. I play games because I like mastery. I hold a controller because I like to be in control. In Snake Eater, there is only me, belly down among softly waving blades of grass, orienting my sightline delicately, going for that perfect, silent headshot. The muffled whistle and twang of my silencer, the soft, defeated moan of an enemy soldier just dropping asleep in the wilderness of Russia. The Occasionally I miss, or someone else spots me and things start to unspool. I start to lose control of my environment. I wish I could play GDC, play my whole career like Snake Eater, committed to no kills, committed to mastery, in perfect control, never making too much noise. That's another thing. I always said being a woman in the game space was like playing Snake Eater. Good, unless you make too much noise, you draw too much attention. Then it quickly comes apart, becomes a clumsy shooter, and you rage quit. I got the pigeon tattoo because I like the idea that true skill can be pacifistic, true mastery can be silent. I want to live my life like a no-kill game.
That was lovely.
Well, I all credit to the recording artist who did that. Thank you.
No. So I found that I really love that chapter in particular. I'm really glad that's the thing that we chose to record. And I think there's some just the way in which you sort of relate your experiences in game to how you sort of want to exist. I mean, you got a tattoo, Leigh.
I did, and a lot of it's a little tattoo of a bird. It's for people who aren't familiar with Metal Gear, it's the emblem that you get if you manage to complete the whole game without killing anybody, and which I challenge myself to do. Like, it doesn't count unless I achieve that whenever I play Metal Gear 3. So yeah, I just I liked that as an emblem to adopt, and now everyone asks me like what my Twitter tattoo is about because it's a tiny bird on my list. And they just do that to be rude because they know what it is. But
well, yeah. So that's like it was a very descriptive piece about a very specific time. Like, do you think that you're going to continue writing about those kinds of things? What kind of stuff are you hoping to write about in the future?
Well, so I've been writing about video games for almost about 8 years now, and I have done some traditional journalism, and I've done some news writing, and I have done interviews with countless developers, and I write about games as a critic, and I write about them as someone who studies design. So often it's letting the designers speak for themselves, and other times it's reporting on my own experiences and feelings of something that I've played, with the hopes of informing a reader about the game and why I think it's interesting. But I've been experimenting a lot lately with doing more personal writing, more creative writing around games, and self-publishing a lot of my own things kind of on the side. I do want to continue to sustain my career largely at a remove from things. I want to keep the focus on the developers who make games and on the games themselves. But in my free time, I guess you could say, I've been doing personal storytelling around games. I did a short story not too long ago as a sort of test bed for these ideas. It's called The Unearthing, and it's on my website, leealexander.net, and it's a piece of speculative fiction about what if I went to the Atari dig when they dug up all the Atari games in the desert, which I didn't actually go to. And the piece that I'm writing now, it's not titled yet, and I don't want to say too much about it because I don't know if I'll be able to execute it well, but it is a story about completely fictional characters experimenting with codependency issues, with the game Silent Hill at the center of their conversations, which Silent Hill 2, which is a game about codependency. So I'm trying to find ways to portray games, people who play games, and people who make games that are unconventional. So we'll see how I do at that.
You were saying earlier about how sort of not being in the games industry, not making games, but being around it. Like, where do you position yourself? Like, when you talk to people, do you say, I work in the games industry? Or do you describe yourself as a writer of things around games?
It depends. I want to make sure that I'm not claiming ownership over work that I don't do. But, I've made some games. I've made some text games. And my business partner and I consult on games for developers who need a little perspective on their projects. We can offer them design criticism and things like that. So I do consulting on the side. I make text games on my own. I feel very passionately about the industry, and I speak at a lot of conferences. So I don't know if it's so important what I'm called. I guess the way that I describe my work depends on who I'm talking to.
That's awesome. And, okay, so you've got short stories up on your website. You've got this book is currently out. Where can we find all of your work, Leigh?
Well, if you go to leighalexander.net, there's a selected links section that usually has some of my favorite stuff, including a place to buy this book on gumroad.com. And I should mention that I'm sharing the revenues for the book with Liz Ryerson, who is an artist, a critic, and a musician, and she contributed the art for my cover, and she contributed an afterword, adding her personal experiences of events and things to mine. So my collaboration with Liz means that I also get to pay someone that I respect. So it's not just I'm self-publishing, but I'm also trying to work with, selfishly find ways to work with people that I like.
Well, yeah,
so.
I found that really, really interesting about when you're writing about the work and how you're getting funded and how you actually want to use sort of this as a platform to help other people, make a bit of money as well.
Yeah, the writing ecosystem is very challenging, and there are more interesting people than there are jobs, especially when so many of us are women doing non-traditional work. Mm-hmm. There aren't normal positions for that at websites. So we're trying to find ways to experiment in the new content economy. Many people are using Patreon, for example, or people are doing videos or Twitch channels. I am trying to self-publish short-form works and see if people will pay $1 or $2 for those short-form works. My book is on sale for $5 because it's a book, but my next story will be $1 or $2 where I split the revenues with an illustrator maybe. So I just have to feel like if I'm always paying someone else, I'm creating opportunities for other people while I am also creating them for myself. And I wish, I think that's a good attitude to try to have. So I'm going to see if that works.
It reminds me of Cliff's approach, Cliff from Positech, because obviously he's a larger indie studio, but sort of is supporting Mitu and sort of other endeavours.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sort of all of us just in the game space are trying to figure out how to make this thing work, right? And there's lots of interesting experimentation happening around that. So
and how to include as many voices as possible and how to just make it as interesting as possible.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, so I think ideally we're all looking at ways to bring other people forward and to diversify the space that we're in. So that's something I'm experimenting with.
Amazing. Well, thank you. We're going to listen to our next profile now.
Hello, my name is Tina Kalinger, and I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah, in the United States. I currently attend the University of Utah, where I'm a graduate student working towards my master's in entertainment arts and engineering on the producer track. That's just a fancy way of saying that I'm earning my degree in video games. I work at the Therapeutic Games and Apps Lab, also known as the GAP Lab, which is a collaborative workspace between my program and the Center for Medical Innovation, also at the University of Utah. Last year in the GAP Lab, I worked on an application to help diabetes patients maintain their lifestyle changes and care plans, and this semester I'm working on a system that helps researchers connect and work together on their projects. In terms of personal work, I've contributed to a number of prototypes and released a Windows 8 game called No Place Like Home. Earlier this year, during the Global Game Jam, I helped create Homunculus, which is a body horror game that was displayed at Digger's Blank Arcade this summer. My current team is making great strides forward in our thesis game, and that's called Foresight 404. It's a first-person playground runner where the player uses their ability to reveal and activate tiles, and they use that ability to navigate a variety of challenging abstract levels. It's kind of a mouthful, but it's really fun, I promise. And we're submitting that to the IGF competition at the end of October. I think about my future a lot these days, especially since I'll be graduating in May. I haven't figured out exactly where I want to work because there are so many different options out there. To be honest, I'd love to come work in the UK or Europe because when I attended GDC Europe in August, I saw how amazing and welcoming the game dev community was, and I would definitely drop everything to relocate if it were an option. If I had to give any advice to someone who's on the fence about getting a degree in games, it would be definitely do your research. Not all programs are created equal, and while my grad program has been an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything, your mileage may vary, so make sure it's something that you want before you commit to it. Also, be aware of imposter syndrome. I never feel like I quite belong, and I always hesitate to call myself a developer, and that's a feeling that many people share. So, listen, anyone can participate in games if they want to. There's no threshold you have to cross, there's no tests you have to pass, and there's no minimum level of education. You can make games if you really want to. I promise.
You are listening to wait, what are we?
One Life Left.
That's right, thank you. We are One Life Left on Resonance 104.4 FM. You can listen to the show live on www.resonancefm.com. If you're in London, you can listen to it on 104.4 FM. You can hear the podcast by going on iTunes and searching for One Life Left, or at our website, www.onelifeleft.com. And this music you're listening to right now is Underwater Cavern by Powersupply. And we are also joined in the studio today by Monica Yon.
Hello.
Got it right, I got it right. Hello Monica, how are you?
Hi, very good, thanks.
You are quite a good person to be having on this week, considering our guest last week was Ed Fear, who works at Mediatonic. You also work at Mediatonic.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. How's that?
It's great. Quite exciting times right now because we've got several things nearing completion and some new projects starting soon. So it's quite a lot going on. It's been a very, very busy period as we were finishing off Hatoful Boyfriend and things going into soft launch and kind of gearing up again for more work.
We talked about that a lot last week, so we are going to avoid pigeons this week.
But they're the best thing ever.
They are, and it's such a great game. But you didn't work on that. That was your Brighton studio that was doing that. But you're an artist.
Yes, I am.
I'm so excited because I don't think that we've had a proper artist who this is what they do on the show before, and I was really excited. I was looking at your website last night, which is
monicayon.com.
Yes, and I was looking at your illustrations, and they're beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
They're so lovely. So have you always been an artist? Have you always been into illustrations and things?
Yeah, basically since I was little I've always really enjoyed drawing. I didn't get to this in a very straightforward way. I did law at school and
that is not the same.
No, and I did a 1-year art psychotherapy course and then I found this job and I've been there for about 2.5 years now.
What was it that allured you into Mediatonic?
That they hired me. No, they some of the games were really, really interesting looking. They had Amateur Surgeon, they had Monsters Probably Stole My Princess, Gigolo Assassin, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and their style was so quirky and so interesting, and they seem like really nice people. So
is this the first job that you've had in the industry?
Yep.
Yeah. That's it's quite a leap to make into it. What kind of stuff do you do now? Like, I don't fully understand the process of making the art be in the game. Can you explain how that happens?
Okay. So we start off with a lot of concepting. So where we do a lot of iterations on what the characters will look like, what the game's about, what the style is, and that usually involves several artists and after that, so we start building the game. So for example, on the project I work with Kerry, we were using Unity and 2D Toolkit, and that usually involved me making assets in Photoshop, creating PNGs, and then setting them up in a process that Kerry had to very laboriously teach me. So you click on the thing and then don't tick the box. Do not tick that box if you tick that box. Yeah, I only broke a few things sometimes. And then we have lots of different packages and things which then process the assets and create them into bundles which then go into the game, and magic happens, and then there's things, and then yay. And that, that changes depending. You can use Flash, you can use, Unity is a big one that we've started using a lot, or various other bits of software.
Do you have a particular art style? Like, looking through all of your work, it didn't seem like one particular style. Yeah. Like, it was kind of varied.
It's quite varied.
Yeah.
I really enjoy experimenting lots of different techniques, and I tend to see other artwork and go, ooh, how do I do that? I want to try doing that. That's nice. I like this technique. And I think overall my style is very colourful. I really like bright, and I quite like watercolours and a very painted feel, but with digital art. Like, I do both traditional and digital media.
How much do you find that when you're involved in a game that you get to put your own imprint on, and how much comes down to you from other people?
Well, in the last project, it's not out yet, so I can't say what it is. I was the lead artist, so it was basically, it looked how I wanted it to look. So I got to say, with obviously some input from clients, it's never fully, I'm not indie, I can't just make it look how I want to look. But you get quite a lot of input. I mean, you have to draw the thing day after day after day after day. So you end up putting your own mark on it regardless. And it's really fun. I started doing some 3D work, 3D texture painting. So not 3D models, I paint the skin of the models. So that's been really exciting.
And how do you take direction from clients or from writers or things? Does someone give you a spec and then, or will you start drawing something first and go, well, I think this is kind of what it should look like? Or how does the power structure of that work?
I think it depends on how much I think the client is part of the project. Because some projects we have our own IPs and then we have a lot of freedom as to what we do, and then other ones, you have to stay within very brand-defined guidelines. It just depends on which one. But usually we have our producers, we have our leads, and kind of our art head of the studio is also kind of the head of creative stuff. It's a little bit confusing, and we kind of get together and you do a lot of concepting and working out, and then a lot of back and forth. Like they talk to the client and then it comes back to us, and sometimes we have some input and we get to say, oh, but this would work really well, and this would be really cool if we did it like this. And
you just get me coming on Skype bullying you to add more unicorns.
Yes, more unicorns was a lovely project. And
that's it. That sounds like a great, lovely few messages to get. Just add more unicorns.
Because it's all the aspects of, well, I'd like to make like this, but we have limitations in the game. We have time constraints. There's a lot to think about, but the system we work with in production is very good. It's agile, and there's kind of little bits of sprints, and it's quite nice to work in because you can reiterate a lot.
Yeah. So you've had quite a varied background, as you said. Yeah. Were you involved in games beforehand, or what was the thing that sort of swept you into games?
Oh, I've always also played games.
Oh, okay. Well, then there we go. That's good.
I love games. I absolutely love games. I play. We've owned a NES, a SNES, a Sega Mega Drive, an N64. In our house currently, there's 2 PS4s and 2 360s because my partner and I can't share.
Wow.
Yeah. I got an Animal Crossing 3DS because he was getting one, and there was no way only one of us was going to have one of those because they're so pretty.
No. So is that something that you always thought you might like to get into, sort of game art? For a long time it didn't seem like an option, and I was going to do law and do another career and have a real job. And then I was working in a small business that was surrounded by creative businesses, and then one day I just walked into one of them, showed them my portfolio and went, do you think I could do this for a living? They're like, yeah, no, give it a go. And then did some freelancing, did bits of work here and there, some storyboards, and found this job ad and went, yes.
I'd say I'm always amazed by people who can actually art. It's like it's like meeting someone who can fly. Seriously, like it's such a weird alien thing to me. So
you can code, so that you can't.
No, seriously.
These letters and numbers make stuff happen. I know that's
I can't art or code, so.
And like, if people are interested in sort of seeing some of the stuff that you've done, some of the artwork that you've got in games, which ones should they be staring at?
The one that's out is Amateur Surgeon 3, and I will get back at you when the other ones are out.
Yes,
and
they'll
be like, get this game, I've done stuff in this, and then this one should be fairly soon for one of them.
Awesome.
And hopefully soon for another one.
Send in a letter so we can listen to the letters jingle.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
I will do that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really absolutely recommend going and looking at Monica's website because the art on there is amazing.
How do you spell your last name so that I can go to your website?
It's ION.
Okay. Awesome. Let's have another little listen from a profile.
Hi, I'm Nathalie. I'm from Vancouver. I work at the Microsoft office as development support, or aka like QA, in application development. Besides my QA life, I also try to develop games on the side, which I'll get into later. I also really love film. I judged for the Women in Film Festival for 1 year and the Vancouver Short Film Festival in the next year. I also produced a couple short films and animations, but I originally was interested in being in film, but decided to switch over to games. The game I made recently is called Miranda, and it's about a young girl who goes to a new town and starts a new life. And part of her getting set up in this new town is she remembers her past. So basically, as the user, you have a bunch of choices, and you could either reintegrate into her new life, either well or negatively. It's up to the user. Inevitably, what this game is trying to do is just to see if this girl Miranda can reintegrate into her new life. So this becomes a little bit difficult for me to talk to. But my game is inspired, but not necessarily based on cases like Rhea Parsons and Amanda Todd, where you have women committing suicide after like sexual abuse or just a lot of traumatic things happening in their lives, and their community is more than not forgiving of what happened to them. So, I mean, that was my launch board to write the story, and I feel like there was quite a bit of challenge writing these stories as well. So before Miranda, I did another game for a game jam prior to Miranda's production. So this game is called Hex, and I made it for the I Am a Gamer jam with a couple other people. And the game jam is you make a game with strong female leads in 48 hours. The game was about a young scientist named Oriana. She is wrongly accused of being a witch, and so her town offers her to a monster as a sacrifice, and this monster has been terrorizing their town, so it's a means to appease the monster. And a real witch comes. Her name is Bella. She comes and she saves Oriana, and together they fight the monster. So I made it with Phil, Laurel, and Matthew, and it was a pretty good first game jam experience I've ever had, and we won a prize for it. It was pretty cool. The very first game I ever made as sort of a experiment and homage to every single kind of game I like it's this game called Circle of Fate, and the premise of the game is you're a young man called Bias, and you are told you are the hero, the one that's going to save the world and stuff, but unfortunately this gets to your head and you make a bunch of mistakes, and you just the end of the game is the party has to kind of clean up for you. It's sort of like a top-down Zelda-style, Final Fantasy combat type game, and that was the first game I ever made, which was not too long ago. Currently, I'm looking for help on an Android game about sailing and the use of stars for navigation. I'm also learning code myself. I've learned the basics of Python and now I'm learning JavaScript. Just a note, I studied at the Emily Carr University in Vancouver. I have a bachelor in arts. I thought code and me would be hopeless, but I love it. I encourage all people who are curious about code to dive right in. I'm encouraged to make games from like now until like forever. So
sitting in the studio having a little dance to this. This is Why Do You Care by My Explosion, and again it's from chipmusic.org. How you doing, Pip?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah?
Having a great time.
Are you? Mm-hmm. How do you think it's going?
Really well.
Do you think I should just sack off Ste and Simon?
Didn't we?
I mean...
Is that not just where they are? You've sacked them.
May as well have done. I'm the only one
they're
that
not
cares.
putting the hours in. I'm just going to put that out there. If they were, they would be here. They're not, therefore, all change.
No. So, hey guys, we're all good to be here every week, right?
Yeah.
Kerry, hi.
Hi, Anne. Hi, Pip.
Hello.
How's it going?
Going good, thanks.
Yeah. So you come up from Brighton?
I have, all the way from Brighton.
So far away. You have opened up your own studio with an awesome name, also animal themed.
Yes, like Mitu, I'm running a micro studio, or I've been going for boutique studio.
Oh, I like that. I like
that. Which is another way of saying it's the corner of my lounge.
Yeah, I work on my own in a dark room.
I've opened a boutique studio called the Rabbit Club, which releases games and virtual reality and weird art projects that are a bit like games or VR but aren't really.
You recently had, well actually how long ago was it? You had Heartwood.
Heartwood came out about 3 months ago 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I don't know what month it is but it came out in July.
It's such a lovely game.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed playing it. I was quite mesmerised by it. It's got really beautiful art. It's got such a lovely pace, and it's quite unexpected at the end. You're like, it's so beautiful. How much do you want people to know about it before they've played it? Because it's quite short.
Because what you're saying makes me want to know more, but also without spoilers.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try and do this in non-spoilery way. It's interesting what you said about the ending, because I was worried about... I wanted the game to be beautiful and unsettling, but and it draws on some horror movie influences, but I wouldn't categorise it as a horror game. And it's nice that you said that it was beautiful, because that's what I was going for. I didn't want it to be sort of a cheap jump scare or anything like that, but I was trying to invent the jump epiphany. I think I did okay.
Yeah, it is very atmospheric. The art style is kind of black and, well, sort of grey, whitey, black and whitey.
All of those colours, yeah.
And it is...
Monochrome?
Oh no, the sky's purple.
And you are in a wood and it's like crunchy under feet.
It was... atmosphere was super important, as well as games. I'm really, really into... theme parks and pleasure gardens and sort of curated physical spaces like installation art, that sort of thing, like places where you go to have an experience. And I think there's a lot of potential for games or things that are a bit like games to draw on that, and that's what I was trying to do there.
It's sort of the kind of thing that boring people would go, well, it's not a game. And I don't like that. I don't like people that say that because also A, who cares, and B, like you're having a really fun interactive experience with it.
I mean, I was on the fence about calling it a game, and all of the initial copy that I wrote for the website and everything described it as, I think, an interactive adventure or a sort of a short story that you explore or something like that. I don't mind people calling it a game. I'm undecided on that one.
Yeah. Do you feel sometimes a little bit claustrophobic with the title of game? Do you feel like it has to be
I think it carries baggage. I think it carries a great many expectations about how you'll interact with it, whether there's a win state or a lose state, and I think the absence of those things in my work, more than how I feel about other people might perceive it, but sort of how I perceive it myself, the fact that it is just intended as an interesting 10 minutes, but that's not very SEO, so couldn't get the URL for that, so I've gone for heartwoodgame.com.
But given your sort of lexical successes so far, you've got your boutique studio, and you've got your jump epiphanies. Is there any sort of term that you've found is helpful in talking about those kinds of experiences? Or is it something that we just sort of struggle to put into words at the moment and hopefully something will come?
I haven't come up with a catchy term for it yet. I find that if I talk around it for a minute or two, I get there, but I haven't quite come up with the pithy take on it.
The Steam category that makes it sound awesome
that's
and
still
immediately
up for grabs,
great.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone wants to write in and offer suggestions, do write into team@onelifeleft.com, and we'll be sure to pass them on. So that is the most recent thing that you have put out, and I saw that you have just put some work in progress stuff on your website as well.
Yeah, I'm working on a second project. Heartwood was a collaboration between me and Dan Bibby, who is a musician I worked with. He contributed the audio, and a lot of the design decisions and the feel of it came from him as well. It was initially a very short personal project that, through his involvement, grew into something a bit more lush and mysterious and full fat, and we enjoyed working together, and we're working together again. The screenshots I've been posting are from a second game that is similarly more of a story you experience or something that happens to you. I expect it to be short again, definitely less than 20 minutes. And this one, we're sort of feeling our way with ideas at the moment, but it's set in the Pennines.
Lovely.
Thanks.
Can I ask where that is?
The Pennines is between Yorkshire and Lancashire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not many games
Not yet.
Currently set there. I think maybe
we're seeing the birth of a franchise, Anne.
Yeah.
It's the hot new location.
And aside from this kind of stuff, what else do you do?
I work in the games industry for a living, have done for the past few years. I'm freelance these days. I'm a programmer, gameplay programmer usually. I worked for a year at Mediatonic with Monica and with Ed Veer. Prior to that, bits of freelancing. I worked at Little Loud for 3 years or so. Yeah. Pay the bills doing that.
You did Sweatshop, didn't you?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Yes, I worked on the original and then the doomed iPad remake, which broke everyone's heart.
Oh no.
Good old Apple.
Thanks for that, Apple. Have you got over that? Yeah.
Just about, yeah. Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, God.
That was so unbelievable.
Yeah.
I know, it was shocking, wasn't it? Well, actually, no.
I mean, I can't believe it was allowed to happen, but...
can you just briefly explain it? Because I'm sure there are some listeners who don't.
So when I was at Little Loud, we worked on a project for Channel 4 Education that we worked in collaboration with a charity on, which was educating teenagers about sweatshop conditions in fashion, in the fashion industry, and it was an educational game that took the form of a simulation that tried to put you in the shoes of people working in that industry. So it wasn't a didactic take on education, it was putting you in the lived role of well, if you shut down the sweatshop, these people lose their jobs. Is that necessarily better for them? You know, it made you make all these decisions, and it was enormously well received as a flash game. And we brought it out on iOS, and it was out for 2 weeks on iOS before Apple pulled it. I'm not quite sure how much I'm allowed to say about the actual process there, but essentially...
From what I remember, like, it was because it breached their terms and conditions because they tend to sort of say, well, if you want to make a political statement, go write a book.
Write a book, that's their phrase.
Basically, that gaming and apps are no place for that kind of thing.
I mean, they have an appeals process that we entered into, and as part of the appeals process, we at Little Lamb spoke to them and said, was there a particular joke that you felt was near the knuckle? Because it did have black comedy, and we thought... it's educational, but if there's any one particular joke that's causing this to cross the line, let us know. And to paraphrase the response we got, the theme of it being set in a sweatshop is the main problem.
That is unbelievable.
Well, that's terrible. But you've got great projects that are out now that people can go on your website.
They can. Come to therabbitclub.com to see what I'm working on.
Lovely.
In the similar way that I'm amazed by Monica for being an artist, I'm amazed by Kerry because, like, you make things which are visually so beautiful. Like, even though you're a programmer,
Thank you.
Like, I think that's just amazing as well. Like, just yes.
Yeah, I definitely
multi-talented.
Yeah,
recommend going and looking at Kerry's games. Let's have another listen to our last profile.
Hi, I'm Merritt Kopas, and I make games. I think that play is this super powerful force that we can use for lots of different kinds of things, and that there's so much more to it than commercial experiences about bros shooting other bros. So I've made games about hugging your friends, having awkward conversations with family members, and hitting someone in a consensual environment. I also curate games for my project Forest Ambassador, which is about collecting accessible, free online games about interesting topics. And in all my work, I'm interested in exploring play as a tool for imagining better worlds, for building community, and for self-examination. So right now I'm editing an anthology of interactive fiction games made using the hypertext tool Twine. Projects like that are really important to me because people, and especially marginalized people like women, people of color, and queers, are doing really powerful and important work in the medium of games, and I want to share that with people who aren't involved in those scenes. You can find all my work online at mkopas.net, or find me on Twitter at m_kopas.
Awesome. Well, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you so much to all of the guests that have come in. Mitu, I realise that we haven't said your website, and it's very important that we do.
Oh, gosh. Okay, it's thetiniestshark.com, and you can get Red Shirt from redshirtgame.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for everybody that's contributed, everybody that got in touch. I was super overwhelmed. I just put out a little tweet and said, hey, do any ladies want to come on the show?
And you did it like that while gesturing.
I know, right? And they did, and it was amazing. I will be back next week with Ste and Simon, hopefully. I know, right?
If they bother showing up.
If they bother showing up. But we will look forward to seeing everyone then. Have a lovely week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.